Alright, on tonight's episode of Python Papi, we're back inside our TensorFlow course, and we're still doing our linear regression models module. Let's have a look at what we went over tonight. Now, let's make use of the exact model we are actually dealing with. If you recall, last night we were doing this model here, or this example here, the sequential API. I'm not sure if I showed you this, but we did this last night, the sequential API, and now we're going to actually deal with the models that we're going to be working with tonight. So here we have two layers. First is our normalization layer, represented by N, which we have seen already. We understand that our inputs need to be normalized before being passed into our dense layer, represented by D. But this should be the first time we are seeing a dense layer, so we try to explain what goes on inside of our dense layer. But we should note that this model is simply made up of the normalization layer and the dense layer. So without the normalization layer, let's take a look at how the dense layer works. With a dense layer, let's suppose we have an input. So let's say we have the horsepower input from our CSV data. Then in our dense layer, we take the input, the horsepower, which we call X, and multiply it by M, and then add the value C. The M is what we call the weight, and the C is what we call the bias. Move down a little bit. And then what we have is MX plus C, and this is our output, which is actually equal to Y predicted. So let's call this Y predicted, and this will be the whole equation here. MX plus C equals Y predicted. And this is the actual model how this will look. So we will have an input, we will have an in layer, and then we will have our dense layer here. So what do we do now when we have many variables? Even though we have many variables, we still have our same dense layer, but there is a difference. Let's suppose we have 8 variables. All 8 variables go into our dense layer. So what goes into our dense layer? For each input, we have M1, M2, M3, all the way up until M8. Then we have M1 times X, that'll be this here, similar to our MX. Then we continue the pattern as such. M1 times X, M2 times X, all the way up to M8 times X. Let me fix that one there. Then we add the bias C. This will give us our dense layer. M1 times X plus M2 times X, all the way up to M8 times X plus C. Now this is exactly what goes on inside our dense layer. That's what we went over tonight. We did go over a little bit more and take a lot more notes, but I'm not going to dive into that right now. I'll keep you guys posted later on, but we can pick this up tomorrow. But for now, this is Python Poppy. You guys stay Gucci.